This is Bill Fellows, and you're listening to Monday Morning Critic.
I gotta say, Bill, looking at your life, the kid who left school at 15 has done pretty good for himself.
Do you know what? Yeah, man. I'm very, you need a lot of drive, you need a lot of luck as well. And then it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, I'm not one for whinging or bleaching on, but, I did have a tough childhood. But then when you look back on those things, that's probably made me the actor I am today. Do you know what I mean?
So yeah, for sure.
All them things kind of, inform you of your emotions. And I was brought up in a very emotional type of household, and I'm emotional myself, and I think that's good for actors, because I can get to emotions quite quickly.
Well, when you say difficult childhood, Bill, do you mean in regards of just growing up, family, life,
family life? We were quite poor. And where I'm from in the northeast, we say poor, which always sounds odd, but poor is a standard English version. My dad was a road sweeper, swept the roads. My mum was a cleaner. There was 5 of us living in a 3-bedroom house. We had no bathroom. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I mean, it's quite hard to believe, but I mean, I was about 10 when a bathroom got put in, and it was the old-fashioned. I mean, I'm in a television program now called Coronation Street,
right?
And what you see in Coronation Street, them terraced houses, that's the kind of house I was brought up in. But it was quite cramped. And so it was that's what I meant by that kind of pressure. I mean, they weren't horrible to us or anything. It was just like with the pressure of your dad not liking his job. It's all that lifestyle. It's a million miles away from probably where I am now and from acting generally, really. But I was quite lucky because I ended up going to a teacher at school who was an English teacher who could tell I was interested in certain things. And he invited me to some drama lessons in the morning at Middlesbrough Little Theatre. And that's the luck of the draw, you see. So if I hadn't gone to that school, I mean, weirdly, being are you American or Canadian?
American, Massachusetts, yeah.
Massachusetts. Well, you might appreciate this more than anybody else, because my secondary school, what we call senior school,
right,
was actually called Hustler. And that's the truth. There's a guy in the northeast called Sir John Hustler, and that's who he was named after. But of course, Hustler to American actors, I tell them that, they go, "What?" I mean, not only is it a magazine, you've got the Color of Money title in the film with Paul Newman about hustling. So yeah.
So it's great that you have this person that kind of believes in you early on, right? You said English teacher, Bill?
An English teacher, Bill Woolley, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And how much do you think of your circumstances growing up, like going through adversity, just kind of having that difficult early beginnings? Did that contribute to your acting? Do you feel like going through that?
I think looking back on it now with hindsight,
right?
Yes, I think absolutely it did. At the time, you didn't want it to be that hard. You wanted a nicer, easier life, of course. So you would try to avoid that. But when I look back on my life, that's definitely informed it. I mean, Bert, what he did do, it wasn't particularly me, but he created an environment so people could go to and act and do stuff. That's all it was. It wasn't particularly aimed at me per se, but he actually he ran a club. And that club was great for me. I used to enjoy going to this club. And, and pretending. I mean, we were pretending to be other people and fun and being heroes and villains. And I mean, as a professional actor, it is just an extension of that. I mean, I'm pretending to be, at the moment in Coronation Street, a chef. And then in Ted Lasso, which we'll talk about, I was pretending to be a manager. I mean, I love football, but nevertheless, I've never been a manager. What acting does, it allows you to explore that other world. And I have another theory about acting as well. I think most actors I know, and I include myself in this, we're pretty good at we're psychologists, because I have played hundreds of different people, and every time I've wondered why do you behave like this? What made you do this? Why? And that's psychology, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to get to the bottom of someone, I mean, and then you kind of somehow, I'm sure a lot of actors will say this to you. Years ago, I did a thing called Rosa Maloney with Sarah Lancashire. And I played he was a real villain. I mean, a real villain. He was a policeman, but beneath all, he was terrible. And so I had to come in my mind, justify that and say, well, there must be a reason behind this. Do you know what I mean? I think all actors. I mean, I'm not telling you anything new. I think most actors do that. You study the person, or why not? You study why he does these things. I mean, I know the real reason is because the writers have written it that way.
Right.
But for us, we have to look into what motivates that character. Why does he do that? Why is he so nice? Why is he so bad? And sometimes you want to make things up in your head. Maybe you can't show that on the screen, but sometimes it helps in your head if you think of a few things, you know.
Yeah, I feel like you have to create a backstory if you're an actor. I mean, I mean, I don't. You would know this much more than I would, but talking to you and other great actors, I feel like, they do create this backstory. They do their research. They do this, So it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things in your filmography I wanted to ask you about was you were in final score with the recently passed wonderful actor Ray Stevenson, who is amazing. I mean, there's a movie he did called Kill the Irishman. It's one of my all-time favorite. It's based on a true story. It is so good. He's such a wonderful actor, Bill.
Yeah.
Any memory? And for those listening, you were in a movie called Final Score. Just talk anything you want about either the movie or Ray himself.
Yeah. Well, finals. First of all, I'd like to look at that movie, Kill the Irishman. I looked that up. Ray I'd met before previously, and I always thought Ray was from the area where I was brought up because he did a couple of Catherine Cookson novels televised, and I did one as well called Dinner of Herbs. And but he wasn't. He's from somewhere else in England, but he's a very imposing man. I mean, he's a lovely guy, really nice guy, but he's very imposing. He was great. I thought it was really nice. We had a good laugh together, and I have to say, he looked really fit and healthy to me. Yeah. So I was surprised. I mean, I did keep in touch with him, well, vaguely, but not very much. As we all, you're a band of brothers for a while, then you all split up, and then maybe you see each other again. But I was surprised at the age he was at 58. That was saddened me a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was great because I had a lot of dealings with him because he was the one. I was the policeman in charge of the stadium, and he played the Russian terrorist who captured us all, and eventually shot me. Sorry for spoilers there,
Yeah.
But no, that film particularly was special because it was through an old friend of mine, and we'd worked together before, and Scott Mann, and I'd met Scott a long time ago when he was just a young fledgling director, and he had his own little film company. So I did a couple of shorts for him, and then I ended up doing a thing called The Tournament. That was with Robbie Carlyle and a few people, and then he asked me to do this, and he's living in Hollywood now and doing great things, I think. So that was nice to work with someone who when you weren't doing that much when you first met them, and then they end up doing this lovely movie. And then of course he's gone on to do The Fall, the Fall, which is really, really good. Someone keeps beeping me here. I'm going to turn this. Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of it because otherwise you'll have all these beeps all the way through it. So if I turn this off, I'm sorry. I should have planned this sooner. There you go. Oh no, I should have played this song. It's given me a bit. Let's hopefully it goes for it. So I'll say that again about the film. So yeah, it was Scott Mann who directed the film, and we'd worked together before, and that's all. I love that when I work with people who you work with them when there was hardly any money around,
right?
And then they go through and you work together again. So I like people who don't forget who was with them when things weren't so rosy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
What like now. So Scott will, Scott is a very honest guy as well. I remember him giving me some great advice. I mean, he's younger than me, a while back actually, and a few years back, and he said, you've got to remember this film world is called show business. I said, what do you mean? He said, like for example, I think you're a terrific actor. I would give you bigger parts, but because of the way the money is structured, I probably wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
So you've got to get yourself with some low budget film or some hit television show. Then I can cast you in a bigger role because it's the pressure from the money men. Right. And when I thought about that, that's okay. So it's not necessarily how good you are necessarily. There are a lot of good actors, but it's about your profile as well. That's what he's saying to me. Try to get your profile up so I can give you better parts.
Right.
Basically. Which I thought that was good actually. It was a really, and I love this expression, show business. It's called a business for a reason.
Yeah.
People want to make money. So that he taught me that actually. But I think he's doing Fall 2. I'm not too sure what's happening, but Fall 1 was a big success for him.
Right.
And Jonathan, the writer Jonathan Franks, who also wrote Final Score as well, or one of the writers of the Final Score.
Yeah, and your filmography is a really strong one. You've had a great career. You continue to have a wonderful career, strong career. We talk about. I'll bring up Ted Lasso. We talked earlier about creating a backstory, creating a. Did you create one for George?
Not massively, because it was already created for me, wasn't it? He was the ex-manager, and I think when the very first scene, Hannah. It says to me, we're chatting away in the script, said, ask your daughters. So that informs me he had a family as well. And then I think in the second series, again, Brett's character, Roy Kent, says to me about drinking and driving, which again, that's there for me. So if you put all that together, it's a pretty, obviously he's got a family. He wasn't that bad a manager, because as I like to say to Roy, to Brett, when I saw him when we were doing some of that filming, you might be calling me a rubbish manager, but at least when I was in charge, we never got relegated. When Ted took over, they got relegated. So, and so there was a little bit of that. So I created a little bit, but a lot of it was written. I mean, I was a kind of a reoccurring secondary character, which I absolutely loved playing, because he was just completely, in the world of Ted Lasso, when everyone's trying to be nice to each other, he's not like that at all.
No, he is not. No,
he will just said it like it is, and you might not agree with him.
You say he's a secondary character, but here's what I would say: you're in all 3 seasons. You are in 10 episodes. He's kind of an important character as far as his arc, right? You see him. We see him in the first episode. For those listening or watching, Bill plays George Cartrick, who is just a great character. You start off with the first episode, and you really find out what George is all about in the first conversation he has with Hannah. But like he lets her know after she fires him. George doesn't pull any punches, Bill.
He doesn't pull any punches, no. And that's what I like about him. And there was a bit in the second series as well where they allowed me to add a few things where Ted has a panic attack. Now, we're living in a world at the moment where, I'm not saying this is wrong, by the way, but everyone's very sympathetic straight away.
Right.
And I just thought, wouldn't it be great? Because they'd written him not sympathetic. If we actually said, which is what I was thinking, panic with the great managers that my character George knows about, Shankly, Clough, would they have panic attacks? No, they wouldn't, because they were like real men type of. So that's the way I thought of him, as an old-fashioned real man type of character who wasn't very sympathetic to things like this. So he's probably brought up in a world, probably a similar world that I was brought up in, where hey, stop whinging, stop moaning, pull your socks up, and get on with it. That's kind of my world a little bit as well. Yeah. I mean, obviously the world has changed for the better, quite frankly. It's nice that we're much more understanding to people. But I like the fact that he wasn't understanding about that. And he said, come on, get on with it. That's the old-fashioned managers from the past. While Ted is the new world, I think what George represented was the old world.
Yeah, Bill. Too. As you're speaking, I'm thinking like so. George is just like you said. He doesn't pull any punches. He's old school. Yeah. But so is his attire. His attire basically says, "Go F yourself." Like he wears. It's excuse the pun. He's a ballsy guy, right? Like
he's a ballsy guy, man. I mean, he's got big balls. That's what. that's what we can see. And I think that running gag was quite good. I mean, because he wore old-fashioned shorts, because that was fashionable in the 70s. Those kind of shorts, the short shorts. Yes. I mean, technically, you would argue. I don't know how you would, expose yourself with those shorts on, because they're very tight. But nevertheless, but that was the kind of vibe he had about the 70s and stuff. And I love the idea about the shorts. I thought it was really good. And I knew it was. Well, he made an entrance straight away, didn't he? Which I was kind of surprised that line was there. But I thought, if you're going to have it there, great, I'll play it. And you probably, I don't know what it means, maybe different in America. But when the opening line when I came in, I think the line was, "I love what you've done to the place, love. Did you do it yourself, or did you get a puff to help you?" Now, I read this and thought, wow, we're going to get away with this, because puff in England means gay. Right. Or homosexual, right? So obviously he's that bloke, and said, "Did you get some homosexual to help you with the decorating because they're good?" That's the kind of vibe was there.
Right.
And I don't know whether they knew what it meant, because I thought, we're going to get, really? Okay, great. Because he was, that's what he would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In real life with his players, that's the kind of things they say behind closed doors, and banter and having a laugh. And I'm glad they showed that, because yes, he didn't come across that nicely because of that, but that's the way he was. A tough old-fashioned manager from the past.
Yeah,
And
I love you did such a wonderful job, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and I just his attire, I just love that old school. And it's funny, Bill, because I thought about you as soon as I saw, like, at the end. I mean, I wanted to get you on long before that, but then when you agreed, I was so happy. So I used to coach varsity softball fast pitch for 20 years. Working with a high school, secondary school, and I had an assistant coach, and he addressed the team. And he had put his leg up on the bleachers when he was talking to the girls. And I swear to God, the same kind of thing happened that happened to George in that last episode.
Wow, really?
It was, I will never forget it. And I was like, God damn it, Bill is bringing back memories to me right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got to give all credit to the writers. I mean, I didn't create him. The writers created this lovely character. And I think initially, I was only planned to be in the first one, that one episode. They did ask me back later to do more in the first one, but I wasn't available. But I love the fact that I was only intentionally to be there for that one scene. I was going to do that one scene, and then I was sacked, and that was it. That was what I thought was the end of my involvement.
Right.
So it was lovely to keep getting asked back, and I think at the end. I love that there was a little bit of redemption, not massive redemption for him at the end, but that nod to Ted and shaking his hand at the end. I thought, I like that.
I did too.
It was subtle as well. It wasn't like, oh no, we're all mates now. It was just, there was a little bit of begrudging respect. For Ted at the end, which I really liked. I thought was great.
Bill, that's a testament to you as an actor. The fact that you were supposed to come in for one, but then you end up in 10 episodes. That's huge. Like, that's them saying, well, we have life for this character.
Yeah, life for this character. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a great job. Let's keep doing. And for those listening or watching, you start off as the manager of AFC Richmond before Ted. You then go on to host Gillette Soccer Saturday, and then you end taking over for Nate as coach at Westham. So it's kind of a cool little arc. Like, you had, I don't want to say three different characters, but like you kind of were three different roles. No,
I agree. It was a lovely little arc, which I never knew this was happening, and I would just get a phone call. Are you free? La la la. Do you want to? Did it. And then it got tricky in the third series because I was working. I'm doing this thing, Coronation Street, the soap opera in England, which is the kind of huge. It's
a bit
program.
Huge. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm a regular in that, so we had to work around the dates on that a little bit. But no, and I was really pleased to be asked all the time to come back. I always enjoyed it. I always enjoyed doing it. But what was really odd was I never really got to know anyone hardly, because I was there for one day at the beginning, very at the beginning, and so I saw Jason then and Hannah, and then the rest of the time I never saw anyone because we went to a different set. So we went to Soccer Gillette and Sky, and that was kind of like they only would allow so many people in. So we used their cameras. And it was just me, the other guys, and a director. So I never saw. So for years, I never saw Jason or anyone. Then on the final day, when I went and filmed the West Ham, I saw Jason again. So really, even though I'm part of it, I feel I've only ever met Jason twice.
You just stole my next question. I was going to ask you what Jason was like behind the scenes, but you've kind of answered. I mean,
he's lovely, but I don't know him at all. I mean, he's one of those characters, and I noticed it from the first day. He cares about everything. So he cares about his own performance, but he's looking, he's trying to help. He's trying, he cares about it so much. He wants to make sure everything's right. He's involved. That's the word I was going to use there.
Yeah.
But
Bill, why does Ted Lasso work? I mean, I got to tell you, I find myself in tears in this show more times than I should. I've had Cristo Fernandez on the podcast. He plays Danny.
Yeah.
Early on. Why is this show work, Bill? I mean, I find myself like at the last episode when it all ended, I was like sobbing. Like it's insane, Bill. Like, I don't know. There's a magic and a secret sauce to this show that it reminds me. I don't know if you've heard of this show. I think it's filmed in England. Afterlife with Ricky Gervais.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's very much to me, very much like that, right? It's all about people and kindness and humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know, Bill, whatever you wanted to say. I freaking just love this show.
No, well, to the answer to the question, honestly, none of us had any idea. I mean, I didn't anyway. And I remember thinking that actually, I think a football show in England, we're very funny in England about football. Do you know what I mean? So I couldn't really imagine it working. But I only had that first script. And I think it just was the perfect timing. It came out in COVID when people actually wanted goodness. They wanted to know there was decency out there, you know, because all drama is about killing people and, you know, and it's torturing people. And all of a sudden, sure, it was like almost cool to be good. You know, like there's a kind of image of cool to be bad. Well, actually, it was the opposite. He was saying, no, it's cool to be good. And that's why I think we all went, yeah, we can be good, we can be kind. I mean, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect, you know, but you try to be. And also, to be fair, I think Jason is just, his timing is tremendous. He's got that. A lot of American actors have got that wonderful timing and slickness. And I can't imagine. I personally don't believe it would be as successful without him. I think the great characters that was built up, but he was the force to it, I think.
Bill, if I came to you, I said, listen, I have a show. It's about a guy from America. He comes to coach you what is essentially the Premier League. He has no experience. He was a football coach, you know, American football before this, and the show's going to take place about him in over 3 seasons coaching his team. You would have been, that's a terrible idea.
Absolutely. And,
yeah. Right. And like, what do we know? Like, it's what an amazing.
Yeah. I would have said, no, you're kidding me, aren't you? This sounds daft. That's absolutely. Well, but as we all know now in this business, and quite a few people have said it, and I think it's the opening of a book by William Goldman, who wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And the opening line is, nobody knows anything. And I thought, that's it. And they don't. No one knows what's going to be it. People put stuff out there thinking it's going to be a surefire winner, and it isn't. So why? I wish if I'd have known that, I'd be making thousands of great programs, you know what I mean?
And then you throw things in, Bill, like Nate goes from being a kit man to the best coach in the Premier League, and then back to kit man again.
Yeah.
And it works. Like you believe everything.
Yeah.
You believe
I mean, the ending of the second series, where he slowly changes, and then that wonderful time where he was grey hair, and then he turns around, I thought was absolutely brilliant.
Awesome.
That was the magic what they did there, because I remember watching it, because I didn't only have my scripts. And I remember thinking to myself, his hair's getting a bit grayer, you know. But I thought that was the man himself, you know. So I never thought it was anything to do with the show. I just presumed his hair was getting grayer.
Right.
So when it finally got there, I thought, wow, what a brilliant moment. It was probably my favourite out of them all, that moment when he turns around and there he is, the Darth Vader or whatever he is.
You just stole my next question. I was going to say Ted Lasso is the first season is Star Wars: A New Hope. The second season is Empire Strikes Back, and season 3 is Return of the Jedi. Yeah, it is absolutely that. You know, do you think that Rupert has made George the way he is, or do you think George was always like that? Because Rupert kind of was, and I'm making a connection here to Nate. Do you think Rupert kind of I don't want to say poison, but like made George his puppet? Do you think that's a fair?
I think so. Yeah. I think it might. Because he had the money, and he had the power. So we're trying to please him a bit. So then he does influence him, and that's again going back to the end, where right at the end, my character goes no, and that's what he pushes him. But so yes, I think he would have that influence. Can I just say though, Anthony Head is one of the nicest actors I have ever worked with.
Awesome. He's a great actor. Yeah.
Great actor, but he's just, you know, might not, when I first sort of meet him, I thought, you know, he's from a different world maybe to me, quite posh or whatever. And funny, lovely man. Absolutely lovely. Work with him anytime, you know.
Bill, behind the scenes, do you and Anthony have like discussions about, hey, let's try this, or I'm going to do this, or do you guys have any dialogue off camera before you get into that scene?
Not so much because the script's written. I mean, no, it was all we did it as was. I mean,
right.
The only thing I questioned was, and it worked obviously the way it was. That when he pushes me over, I said to the director and to Jason, shouldn't I just get back up and confront him? And he goes, no, that wouldn't work for us. You know what I mean? Because part of me wanted to go, you know,
Yeah,
why would he just lie there? But then Jason helped, and Ted and I think Lowry said, you know, maybe he's in a bit of shock, which worked. But it had to be like that. So
it did.
It had to be like that, otherwise it wouldn't work. I mean, these guys they know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, for sure, yeah. You know, go ahead.
Sorry, then there's that weird thing which he brought to it, which they have been saying Cheers or Fraser. It's kind of heightened. It's slightly heightened. If you want to base it on total reality, for example, when the camera pans and you West Ham, and then you've got all the men, the footballing men, crying. Obviously, that's not real.
Right.
But somehow, the way they made it work, the heightened reality, you accept it.
Yeah.
And it was funny. So that fine balance between being footballers and real and comedy, that's what he did so well. And I think they do it really well in Frasier and Cheers and all that kind of one. Friends, they do that wonderful heightened comedy with reality mixed in. Something that I'm not too sure that I'm very good at, or maybe the Brits aren't so good at that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny too, because that scene you're talking about at the last one of season 3, the finale. It's a weird, because like it's a funny scene, because when you fall on the ground and we see, you know, what we see, and then they go back to the bar, and the bar patrons are like, "Hey ref, there's 3 balls on the field."
I know, hilarious, man. Yeah,
then you kind of sympathize with George. You're like, man, Rupert is an asshole. Like,
absolutely, you know, absolutely. And there's a little touch which Jason came up to me and said, you know, so I'm going to look over, you look at me, and I'm going to just don't do too much, just a little nod or something. And I went on, and it worked brilliantly. I'm just a little nod to say, are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Because I love the fact that of all the old-fashioned bluster, of all the old-fashioned, maybe a bit sexist, maybe a bit whatever, not in a horrible way, just old-fashioned way, that deep down, George loved football and he wanted to play it the right way.
Right.
He didn't want to be dirty. He wanted to do it right. And when he was saying, to play dirty and get him out, no way. And that's what I loved about him most of all, that for all the stuff, he actually liked football. He wasn't a bad manager, and he wanted to play the beautiful game well. And that's what George was all about. Really.
Yeah. Bill, I have a few more questions. Thank you for all this time. You're such a good man. Thank you. So, you know what I was thinking about too, Bill, is that when that scene unfolds, right, the audience, and I think Nate too, realizes he made the right decision to get the hell out of Rupert's way.
Yeah,
you know, because that just confirms it. Because I mean, listen, Rupert assaults George. He degrades him, and it's just, you know, I think the audience is watching and saying, "Wow, Nate made the perfect choice."
Perfect choice, absolutely. I mean, I think there has been some reviews saying they would have liked to have seen Nate more change. You know, they're leaving Rupert to go back. Maybe that might have been a bit more expanded. I don't know. So, because it was quite quick, wasn't it? All of a sudden he was with him, then he went over back to Ted.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, I thought it worked really well, to be honest with you, the whole thing. But definitely. But then he got his comeuppance, didn't he? Because as he walked off, the humiliation of the crowd turning on him and calling, you know, that was great, because he's embarrassed himself. He's embarrassed everyone else. He's lost.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You know, in the show, the one thing I always wanted when I'm watching this show, Bill, I always want to say, like when Ted's wife leaves him for the therapist, I'm like, Ted, why are you still being so nice? Like, I would have just said, F you, you know, I would have just been so angry. Like, but I think, again, for me, the secret sauce in that show is, I love that Ted doesn't do that. I love that he's just kind. I love that he's like, I am not. He loses his temper a little bit with his mom, but I think that's appropriate for the scene. I don't think that affects his character. But like over 3 seasons, that's the beauty in the show, is that's who he is. You know, and one of the scenes that really made me pour is when Trent is writing that book, and he said, "Trent, great job, but it was never about me." It's like, that's it.
Yeah,
right?
You know, I think you're 100% right. I mean, you're right. And also, we all sit there and think, I'll do this and I'll do that. But he doesn't do it. So in a way, he might be crying on the inside. That makes us cry more. Do you know what I mean?
That's right, because you know the pain he's going through.
Yeah, we know the pain he's gone through.
Yes.
And he doesn't show it. And that's much more moving to an audience. I mean, I've always done this in the plays and stuff I've done. Watching someone cry, it's terrible. Watching someone try not to cry is very moving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you see these poor people on television and they interview them about the child who's gone missing, it's, you know, and the person is trying, when he's trying to be strong, that breaks my heart. And I think that's what he does brilliantly, Jason. He's strong, but he's crying inside and breaking inside, but holding it together. Like weirdly, like George would say, like a real man. Do you know what I mean?
You know, that's a great point, Bill. Like I never even thought of it that way. The person who is holding it in emotionally without getting visually upset, that is much more emotional than watching somebody get upset because you know the battle. That's such a great point.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, that's...
Man, as a fan, when you watch the final product, Bill, what do you love most about the show? Is there a character you like most? Is there, like, when you saw the big picture unfold, what really stood out to you? You mentioned some things you love about the show, obviously, but is there anything in particular that you really just that really hits home with you with this show?
Well, I think, well, I mean, I'm very good friends with Jeremy Swift, who plays Higgins, because he's from right where I'm brought up in Middlesbrough. He's brought up in Stockton, which is about 5 miles away. So we're from the same area of England.
Oh, okay.
So that was lovely to work with him. Only did that one scene with him, but I did that. But for me, I think Hannah is like, wow, you know, she just was brilliant. I think Hannah was, even though I did with her the very first scene. I remember that we both said, actually, she's very nice to me. She complimented. He said, you know, that first scene set the tone of the whole show. That was important to get that scene right, because it went from there. And I thought she was fantastic. I think she was fantastic all the way through, wasn't she? I mean,
super. Yeah.
I mean, that's the weird thing about our business, isn't it? Because, you know, I'd heard how good she was through friends of mine because of the musical theatre. So, oh, she's a great singer. She's this, but I didn't really know her that well. But I was told how good she was. And then all of a sudden, at the age of, I don't know, mid-40s, to get this opportunity, which she's grasped, and you think, how many other people are out there doing wonderful things that just don't get that opportunity?
Yeah. You know, and because I think the world's last, she's been in a lot of things, but people saw her in Game of Thrones, but she was, you know, she was the shame, but she was always bundled up. You really couldn't see what she looked like. But then when you see her in Ted Lasso, she's like stunning. It's like, whoa, like what, you know, that's
Oh no, a real breakout star from that. Like quite a few of them. I mean, obviously Brett as well, wonderful as well. All of them were really good. To be fair, the casting was of that team was fantastic. I felt really good. You know,
but shows are built upon characters like yours, Bill. Like George. I mean, those are the characters I feel like that are underrated, that really fuel the fire in a show that is really just a super show. But like, it's not always about top 3 on the call sheet. It's the foundation lies here. Like, is that accurate, Bill? You think?
No, totally accurate. You know, I mean, it's funny. I saw something a while back about the 25 characters from Ted Lasso, and I wasn't on it. And I thought, that's bizarre, because they talked about some people have been in 3 or 4 episodes. But you're right. George has been there from the beginning to the end.
Yes.
And I think in a way, it was needed as a juxtaposition to that other world. And a comedy figure as well. I mean, you know, he was quite funny in places, and Manly was the butt of the jokes as well. But no, it was a character which I can't quite even believe now, from that day 3 years ago, doing one day on it, that I've actually become part of history. You know, because I think Ted Lasso is one of those shows that will live a long time.
Big
in
time.
our imagination, you know, so you can tell your grandkids, I was in that one, you know what I mean? There's not many show me. I have done a lot of good stuff, and I'm really pleased, and I've had a decent career, and I'm proud of him in Coronation Street. I was in Downton Abbey, you know, things like that.
I was going to bring up Downton Abbey. Great movie show.
But again, a similar thing. I only did 1 episode of that, but it was in the first series, so it hadn't been shown yet. So when I, talking to the actors, and we were sat around having a cup of tea, no one knew that it was going to be this massive success. Like Ted Lasso, no one knows anything. You never know what's going to happen, and if it's going to be a massive hit. And so yes, I'm honoured that I'm in that one as well. I mean, only in 1 episode of that one, but it was a nice part. But I've been lucky in that way. Yeah. So I'm just to be part of it, really.
Bill, you ever get rattled or starstruck, or are you just too much of a vet for that to happen? Like when you're around like some of these big names and big productions and big shows, are you just a veteran actor who's seen it
I
all?
think, yeah, probably a bit of a vet now. I mean, you know, what I mean, because I admire people. I admire people what they do, but actors aren't my heroes. You know what I mean? There's other people that do some incredible things in the world. Do you know what I mean? I mean, funny, sadly, the other day, yesterday, a great actress called Glenda Jackson died. And my two heroes of acting, if maybe not the right word, was Albert Finney and Glenda Jackson. And they're both gone. And I'd love to have met them. They're the only two actors probably I would have done anything to meet. I mean, obviously, as an English actor, we look to you guys, and Robert De Niro is the king. You know what I mean? I'd love to meet Robert De Niro. I'd love to be in something where I had one line with him. That would do me. But I don't think I'd be rattled by him. I would just say, you know, I would lovely it is to stand next to a great actor. I admire great, you know, good performances. But Robert De Niro, Pacino, all these other great people, they haven't been great all the time. You know, there's some things it doesn't work for them.
Right.
They're just human beings that sometimes the casting hasn't quite worked for them. But what you remember about De Niro is some of the great things he's done, The Raging Bull and obviously Taxi Driver. And I mean, as an actor, you think, wow, wouldn't it have been great to just have one great movie that when you're gone, people remember that one great movie?
Right.
But, you know, I haven't quite that, but I've got a couple of televisions, like Ted Lasso is one of them.
Oh, you have a great filmography. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I was going to ask you, you talked about Albert Finney. One of my all-time favorite movies is the '73 Scrooge the musical.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Bill!
No,
I love Albert.
Yeah.
That's a great call. Albert Finney is awesome.
Finney, yeah.
Awesome
No, well, he represented where you know in his first film, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. It represented my kind of life. You know, when I was a young man, that was the kind of world I came from. So for us, it was seeing actors like Albert Finney and Tom Courtenay, and obviously Glenda Jackson, coming from quite a humble background,
right?
And seeing them do well, as always, it just helps. And a while back, a friend of mine, we were chatting, younger than me, and he said, "Well, that's what I felt about you." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "When I saw that you'd done well coming from Middlesbrough, that inspired me to think, oh, it is possible."
Oh, that's awesome.
It was nice. Yeah. I was really chuffed, thinking, "Oh, well, that's great," because it isn't easy, and I mean, acting's not easy anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's right. I mean, you know, I'm trying to get an American agent at the moment just to see. I've written to a few, but had no replies yet. So, you know, let's see what happens. But that's hard, probably. I don't know.
That's unbelievable to me that an agent wouldn't reply to. But believe me, I've as a podcast host trying to get guests, I kind of feel the same thing. But like, you are an established great actor. Like I don't know.
Well, I only did it a few days ago, so maybe a few will reply. I'm not too
sure. All right.
But you know, as I'm coming to a certain age now, that it's something I've never done. I've never been to LA. I mean, I've been to America, but I've never been LA or New York. And I thought, you know, and I played a couple of Americans and things which were being filmed over in Budapest and places. But I thought, you know, it might be a bit late now, but we'll see. I wouldn't mind just coming to America just to see, you know, if I get work or that world over there, because it is the dream world for me. Growing up in Middlesbrough, you know, Hollywood that's that life. New York, that's what we were all brought up on as a dream. Right. Do you know what I mean? So something maybe my last hurrah of trying to do something over there.
You're still a young guy. Stop talking like you're not.
You know, I've got a contract now for a year anyway with Corrie. But when that finishes, it's something I would like just to think about. And if nothing else, at least go and visit LA. I mean, I've got friends over there, and quite a few friends have said, come over, stop with us. But it's a blessing and a curse. But luckily, I said, well, I can't because I'm working. So I've always been working, which is quite nice. I'm one of those.
Which most actors can't, like most people that want to become actors, being a working actor, most people can't do it. Like it's too hard.
I think people underestimate that what a working actor is, because it's great to keep on working. Do you know what I mean? I mean, a jobbing actor is what we say over here. But that's, in my opinion, that's brilliant. That means you're getting lots of jobs.
Right.
Fantastic, you know, and like now through Ted Lasso, but especially Coronation Street, I've got quite a high profile with the audience because it's one of the most popular programs in England. So the profile it goes up with people. But for me, the work is the most important. And I mean, and this character I play in Coronation, I like playing him. He's a strong, decent guy, and I like that. And I think as actors, you've got to like your character, bizarrely.
Yeah, that's well said.
You know?
Please tell me they let you take a pair of shorts home with you.
You know, I would actually, I wish I could say yes, but I didn't even ask. But I should have done, to be fair. But yes, I should have done. Yeah, but they're great. There's goodbye presents. They sent us wonderful Beats headphones, Ted Lasso.
Oh, nice.
And quite a few things and a hold all bag. So I've got a lot of memorabilia from Ted Lasso, which my son keeps saying, keep the box, Dad, because they'll be worth money later on. But no, they were generous in that way. But yeah, I never thought about that. We did get sent, I think a lot of us got sent shirts. So I've got a Ted Lasso football shirt.
Nice.
Nice. But yeah, you're right. I wish, now you've said that,
Those are legendary shorts.
Actually, now I regret I should have done. I just never thought.
Yeah. You talked about Hollywood. You know what the new Hollywood is, Bill? Is Georgia. Like so much stuff is filmed in Georgia.
I've heard this. Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah. I suppose an agent over there would get you work in Georgia, but then I was thinking more of a lot of things that in America are getting cast over America, but they're filming over here. That would be all right, because I know for an English actor you've got to get O1 visas and quite a lot of stuff needs to be sorted out. But it's possible. Everything's possible. Right. So maybe if I haven't left it too late, I might give it a go. If not, at least I've got to visit LA. That's the big thing. But maybe Georgia sounds the place to go to, like you said.
You are a supremely talented actor. I loved you in Ted Lasso. Bill, is there anything you wanted to throw out there? Maybe a project you're involved in? Anything you wanted to throw out? Any?
Not really. There's a couple of things coming out. I'm doing a film called Law, but I've just been. It's on deadline today. There's a film I'm going to be in called Vampires, which or Blood and Ink, which is a really interesting story about the novel that was written before Bram Stoker written.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it was a guy called John, and Lord Byron took credit for it. So this is what it's all about. But John Polidori was the guy who wrote the vampire stories like we imagine now.
Right.
Before that, they were like hideous villains, but he wrote them as an elegant man. And it's Malcolm McDowell and Derek Jacobi.
Wow.
And so I'm part of that. If it all works out, you schedules and dates and everything like that. But that should be an exciting project. And I've got another film coming out called Law, which is like what are they called? Compilation where there's 5 different stories, short films all put together.
Right.
Which I've got that coming out. And but at the moment I'm right in the middle of Corrie in a big storyline. With my granddaughter in it, and that's taken up a lot of my time now. Learning the lines, there's the hard work.
Can people in the States watch that over here? Is that available?
I'm not too sure. I think they can, but I know in Canada it's massive. It's massive.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
And Australia and New Zealand, but I'm not too sure about America. I mean, people know about it in America, but I don't think it's massive there.
Yeah, it's a huge show. Like it's very, like just knowing we were going to talk, I was looking at it's a hugely popular
in England
show.
It's massive, absolutely. In America, I think you probably can with subscriptions or something. I mean, this is the weird thing about Ted Lasso, because even though everybody knows about it in England, not many people have watched it because they haven't got the Apple app, because we got to pay for the app.
Oh,
and so subscriptions, a bit like Netflix.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have gone, oh yeah, I've never seen that show. I've heard it's fantastic. But of course, they have to pay for Netflix, they're paying for Amazon Prime, so they have to pay for Apple as well. That's that. So the audience isn't as big over here as it is in the States. I mean, the States love it, don't they? And around the world love it. But here, people do love it who've seen it, but not as many people have seen it because of the subscription thing.
You know, and you're right. They add up. But I'll say this, and I don't get paid by Apple. I'll say this for it's in the States. It's like $6.99 for a month. That is the biggest. That's a great bargain as far as because Netflix totally is $20, HBO's $20 plus almost. It's like Apple's $6.99, and the programming on Apple TV is phenomenal. Like the movies.
Totally agree. I've loved. C, is it C's on there?
C, yeah. Jason Momoa, yeah.
Foundation, I absolutely
great
love.
show.
And Severance is that now? Is that
Severance was great? Yeah,
yeah, it's Apple, isn't it? Apple.
That's Apple. They're all Apple. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I got it because of Ted Lasso, But I agree with you. I think it's the best. It's a great streaming channel because of them. And then someone else has recommended Silo.
I'm watching Silo now. It's great. It's
great.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's like you said, it is a bargain and stuff. But I think what's happened with Apple is it's come quite late because people are already paying for Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney. And it all mounts up. Plus the fact that, which you might not have in the States, but we have here, the BBC, which I absolutely adore, and I think we've got to keep it. But we all pay a license fee. So you've got to pay a license fee plus all these other things.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, which is
it adds up. It all adds up.
Well, the BBC don't have any, you pay for it because they have all radio and everything, and they don't have any adverts, you see.
Right, okay.
So that's why,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of talk, but I mean, I hope it stays because I do think it's worth it, the BBC. So I'll always pay my license fee, but the government are trying to push it towards subscriptions or adverts and stuff like that. But
yeah, I get it. Well, Bill, I can tell you, you're welcome back anytime, and
please, for this. Absolutely.
You're good people, and thank you for this.
No, my pleasure, and I'm glad you've really enjoyed the show. And I've loved talking about George.
Yeah, I love George. Thank you very much. I had a ball.
Cheers, mate.